Hello, fourth grade. It's Mrs. Dixon, and we're talking today about poetry. We've studied poetry last semester, and we're going to do a little bit of a poetry review before our test next week. The unit test has one poem on it that you'll have to answer questions, including a question that you have a written response to. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's learning target is I can use poetry to develop and deepen comprehension, recognize and analyze genre specific characteristics, and analyze author's craft. Now, that is a mouthful. And believe it or not, we're going to do each of those right now in this mini lesson. Our language objective is I can write to take notes on specific types of writing like poetry. So we're going to be doing some note taking on the Nearpod and just analyzing the characteristics of poetry and why authors use that when they're writing poetry. Are you ready to get started? Let's go ahead. So, in this video, you're going to get some directions, and then you're going to try on your own to complete what I've talked about, so that you get some individual practice with poetry and identifying some of the genre specific characteristics in poetry. So I'm going to go ahead and go to this slide where we can mark on our text. You are going to use this Elements of Poetry anchor chart to help you recognize some things in this poem from HMH, which is called The Great Barrier Reef. Now, one thing that I would always suggest is do a read of the poem before you even start like labeling and all of that. So first, I'm going to read this poem to you. It's called The Great Barrier Reef. In the Coral Sea off the coast of Queensland, Australia. It's 1,600 miles long along the Queensland coast, the barrier reef whose name is great, and that's no idle boast. It's 1,600 miles long and every inch alive. Perhaps you'd like to have a look? You do not need to dive. Or even get your swimsuit wet to see this awesome place. The reef's so huge, it's visible by astronauts in space. To think you can be orbiting the Earth while looking at a teeming turtle, dolphin, whale, and porpoise habitat. Your eyes will tell the story, and you will no doubt its moral. There's hardly anything on earth more beautiful than coral. So that's my first read. And now I'm going to look at some things that I want to do on this poem. I'm going to first look at my elements of poetry. And I notice it says poetry can tell a story. It can tell a story. It can describe a situation or appeal to the senses. And so this poem, to me, it does all three. It's definitely describing, and it's definitely appealing to my senses. And it does sort of tell a story of the Great Barrier Reef. Maybe not like a story we think about with the characters and all of that, but it has a story feel to me. Okay, so let's look at the structure. Line break, where each line of the text ends. And we can see how many lines we have. And in fact, right now, I would like you to label those lines. You can go to the next. Actually, I'm going to label the lines, and when you get to the poem yourself, that's what I would like you to do, is label the lines. Whenever you have a poem, you really always want to label the lines. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and start doing that. I would like you to finish it on your own after this video. So notice that I'm starting doing it, but I'm going to have you finish it. So we've talked about line break. We definitely have that element of poetry. The next thing is a stanza. Stanzas are a group of lines within a poem. And so, like if I notice here, there's a break, a space, that is stanza 1. And then there's another break. We would call that stanza 2. So I want you to go ahead and finish doing that when this video is over. So you'll use this checklist to go ahead and find these elements of poetry in the Great Barrier Reef. Now, I'm going to challenge you to find rhyming words, rhythm, imagery, alliteration, onomatopoeia, and repetition. I'm not sure you'll find all of them, but try to find as many as you can. When you find one, like right here, coast, boast. Well, coast and boast rhyme, so I'm going to put an R by that because that's rhyming. If you find rhythm's a little bit trickier to find. You can put an RH, and then an I by imagery, A for alliteration, O for onomatopoeia, and R for repetition. So right now, on your own, I'd like you to try the next slide and find as many of these items as you can, and then you can check yourself to my work. Good luck.